afternoon. Once again, every Friday afternoon, as often as I possibly can, I do a live stream because I'm the art pastor. And part of my mission is to explore spirituality and scripture through visual art and creativity. And every Friday, I go live to invite you into my studio because I am a working artist and I've always got something going. And hold on a second. I gotta clear this alarm bell that's going off in my ear that hopefully you can't hear, but it was really loud. Um, so yeah, let me get rid of that. Where was I? Oh yeah. So that's the joy of live streaming is anything can happen on the live stream. And so what I do is I invite you into my studio and see what's going on. So during the month of December, during Advent, each week, I'm going to be doing some contemplative art around the text for the upcoming week. So I'm going to go ahead and just dive in to my my iPad real quick. Let me transition over here, get my camera going. And so so here's the lay of the land. Stephen Martin is online during YouTube. Sharon is here with Stephen. Um, and we do have audio. Oh, that's awesome. Thanks so much, Stephen and Sharon. I'm glad you're with me. And again, if you're with me live on Facebook or YouTube at any point, feel free to leave a comment in the chat and that we can make this interactive. So here's where we're going to go today. And we're going to quickly look at the text for this upcoming Sunday, which is we're looking at Sunday, December 8th, 2024, which is the second Sunday of Advent this year. And this is the Revised Common Lectionary texts. And there are just two portions of these texts that I want to look at, and then I'm going to create a piece of art. And so I invite you to, you can do one of two things. One, you can just sit back and allow my creative process to be a contemplative act and engagement for you, kind of like watching the Bob Ross videos back in the day, right? Or you could go grab your own art supplies and you could create a piece of art along with me. You don't have to do what I'm doing. You can create your own piece of painting or drawing that is a reflection on these texts for yourself. And then I'd love for you to share them with me. You can message them to me through Facebook or you can email them to me at steve@stevethomason.net. That'd be awesome. So the first text is Malachi 3, 1 through 4. So right now I'm inside of my Logos Bible software app on my iPad, and it has the Revised Common Lectionary in it, which is wonderful. So you can link right to the text. Um, and then another feature of Logos Bible software, which I really love, is it has this feature that you can draw on screen. There it is. Click on that, and it turns the screen into a drawing tablet, and it has all these drawing tools on the side, which is a really lovely way to teach and or to study the text. You can mark up the text freehand, and I'll show you that in just a second. So here we go. This is the first reading, or one of the options for the first reading this week. This is the prophet Malachi, which is the latest prophet in the Hebrew canon, and probably happened about 100 years after the exiles. The Judeans came back from exile, and the second temple had been built, and already the priests were starting to fall back into the old patterns of corruption. And so this prophecy is being spoken to the leaders of Jerusalem, who are the priests who are in charge of the worship at the temple. So here's what Malachi says. See, I am sending my messenger to prepare the way before me, and the Lord whom you seek will suddenly come to his temple. The messenger of the covenant in whom you delight. Indeed, he is coming, says the Lord of hosts. But who can endure the day of his coming? And who can stand when he appears? For he is like refiner's fire and like fuller's soap, which, by the way, fuller's soap is laundry soap, making clothing clean. He will sit as a refiner and purifier of silver, and he will purify the descendants of Levi and refine them like gold and silver until they present offerings to the Lord in righteousness. Then the offering of Judah and Jerusalem will be pleasing to the Lord, as in the days of old and as in former years. Now that's where the reading ends for this week. But I want you to notice the next verse names the things that are um, the impurities that need to be refined out, the blemishes on the laundry, if you will. And I think they're really interesting. So first of all, he says, I will draw near to you for judgment. And remember, the word judgment basically means speaking the truth about something, calling a thing what it is. I will be swift to bear witness against sorcerers. That's people who are manipulating natural elements for their own gain, right? That's why sorcery and magic was a bad thing in the Hebrew mind, because it was people trying to manipulate the world for themselves. Against adulterers, because that's a selfish use of sexuality. Against those who swear falsely, again, lying to get your own way. Against those who oppress the hired workers in their wages. So these are business owners, landowners who are taking advantage of their workers. Those who oppress the widow, because in that culture, a widow had nothing, and they were very, very one of the most vulnerable members of society, as are orphans, because children had no rights, and if they had no parents, then they had nothing. And so those who oppress hired workers, oppress the widow, oppress the orphan, and against those who thrust aside the alien. And the alien, is the foreigner, the person who is not of your, of course, in Judea, those who are not Jewish people living in the land. If you abuse those people, that's also a blemish. Those are the people who do not fear me, says the Lord of hosts. Okay, so those are the things. Um, yeah, Paul Houston is online. He said, "Wow, powerful and humbling text, right?" Yeah, I've been wrestling and sitting with this text all week, and it's really intense. So there's two things I want to draw out from this text. First of all, I'm going to choose orange because, of course, we have two really powerful metaphors that the prophet is using. So we've got the refiner's fire, and then we have, I'm going to go to my Advent blue here. We have Fuller's soap. So I'm going to do like water and then bubbles. So we got sudsy water. And I think that's such an interesting contrast of metaphors because you have fire and water, um, soapy water. And this helps me remember that the fire is not a consuming fire, it's a cleansing fire. It's a refiner's fire, because that's how you refine gold is you heat it so that the dross, the non-gold or the non-silver ore, um, floats to the surface, and then you skim the dross off the top, and then you have pure gold and pure silver. And then the fuller soap, if you're trying to get your cloth clean, soap binds itself to the impurity, extracts it from the cloth, and then rinses it out with water. So really, really powerful images. Now, so that is the first text. And then if we come back here, there's just one little verse in one of the other readings. The context of this is in Luke. So the Revised Common Lectionary is now switching to the year of Luke. So I'm super excited. Stay tuned. I'm going to be walking us through the Gospel of Luke. I'm going to be spending the rest of the year in Luke, and I'm really excited to do that with you. But this is the story of Zechariah, the father of John the Baptist, whose wife Elizabeth miraculously conceived in her old age. So Zechariah and Elizabeth conceived a child in their old age which was wonderful. And John is born. And when John is born, Zechariah is able to speak, and he speaks this prophecy. And I just want to look at the last two lines. He's speaking of the one who will come. Um, the his child is going to make a way for the coming of the Lord, and the Lord is going to give light to those who sit in darkness and in the shadow of death, to guide our feet into the way of peace. And that's the key word there, to guide our feet into the way of peace. So here's what I want to do. I'm going to start a new image, and it's going to be a 4K square. So I'm in Procreate on my iPad Pro, and now we're going to get into art making mode. And so I will make comments about what I'm doing in two ways while I'm doing it. One, I will, for those of you who love Procreate or just like making images digitally, I am going to tell you what I'm doing in Procreate so you can have that technical geek, let's just get our geek on here about Procreate. We can do that. But I'm also going to talk about the theological and conceptual piece that I'm doing as I create this contemplative art around that text. So I've got three metaphors that I'm playing with from the text. One is a refiner's fire. The second is that laundry soap, that fuller's soap, sudsy water for cleansing. And then the way of peace, our feet on the way of peace. And so I'm going to play with that. I'm going to go ahead and turn the music on so that we can maybe get into a contemplative space in our hearts and our minds, and make sure the music is at an appropriate level. And again, I invite you, if you want to make some art with me on your own, play with Refiner's Fire, Fuller's Soap, The Way of Peace, or whatever you want to do. I invite you to do that. Or just sit back and enjoy this. And again, if you're online, leave a message, shout out, um, and let's do this thing. So the first thing I'm going to do in Procreate is go to, you see here I clicked on the layers section and there's a background color. And I always like to start an illustration with a mid-tone background. And you can go like really neutral gray, that works. And since it's Advent, which has a blue theme to it, but I'm also going to be playing with fire and gold. Yeah, I think I'm going to stick with a blue. So I might come down here and shift so I can hit in the blue range and just turn my gray just a little bit cool with blue. Uh, and we'll start there. I'm going to go ahead and just choose black and choose I think I'm going to choose my gouache, natural wash first to just, I'm going to do a thumbnail, really blocky, with a perspective right here. Because I'm thinking of, yeah, okay. See what I've done right here is just super quick. I've blocked out my illustration, and that's called a thumbnail. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead. I think I'm actually going to use the text tool. I'm going to add text. And this is a cool part of Procreate. I'll put my pencil away. And I want to go to a caps lock. And I want the word, pull up my keyboard. I want the word peace, but I want it in a caps lock. So I got to choose the whole word. click caps lock. And then let's go to, let's find a font that has a nice bold, I want a sans serif bold kind of he's a pro. No, I need it to be, yeah, impact. That's a good one. And I'll make it kind of big. Boom, there it is. So I choose select. Yeah, that's going to work nice. So I'm going to make this really big because the center, so now I'm going to use my warp distort. If I grab this corner and follow my perspective lines, if you hold it down and drag it, you can follow your perspective lines, and boom, there it is. And now, whoops, now I hit uniform, and now I can make it big like that. And then if I freeform it, pull this down just a little bit, boom. Okay, so that's the quick way to do lettering in Procreate. And I just want to use that as a guide. So I'm going to go ahead and bring down the opacity on that. Because I'm going to do, I actually want to freehand draw. So I'm going to actually put that under my sketch. I'm going to lock this sketch, and I'm going to lock this so that I don't accidentally draw in it. So now I'm going to go to my sketch marker, and go ahead and hand draw the outline of this because I don't want it to be so perfect. But the idea that I'm going for here is actually, I want it to be kind of like a mold that's in the ground. So I think I need to hold on, let me turn my volume up so I can hear. I think we can get the music a little louder. Yeah, there we go. So I'm wondering what you're creating. Hope you're creating something that's contemplative, kind of gets into the space a little bit. So what I'm doing here is I'm thinking of these as molds that are in the ground. So I'm trying to draw them set into the ground. So the surface of the letters are the surface of the ground. And then, so you draw the perspective down. Here, you can see on this side, the perspective goes this way. So I'm imagining this this two-point perspective that's going down under the ground. Okay, so now if I turn this off, then you can see I have this more rough drawing of the piece. So I think I'll do another layer, and I'm imagining I'm going to be mixing these metaphors, right? So I'm imagining that there's a crucible right here that is pouring the gold into the mold here. So maybe they'll connect like this. But I also want to have a figure that's stepping out onto, like stepping out of the crucible. So I have to imagine like all the weight is coming here. So the hip is up. And if the hip goes this way, then the shoulders are going to go this way. And I don't want it to, I want it to be kind of a generic humanoid. Oh, you know what? So check this out. So you can take your select tool, and then I'm going to hit warp, and I'm going to bring it over like this because I want to shift the weight like that. Yeah, okay. So that's just a sketch. So this person's walking out, and then I'm going to have a couple other figures because I don't want this to just be about one person. Have a different shaped body coming out like this, and you'll see that they're going to be walking out of the fire like that. And then let's do maybe when I draw humanoids, I try to use more geometric shapes because I don't want it to be specific to an ethnicity or a gender or anything. So I have these, some people have called them my marshmallow people. Yeah, and then maybe we can even put other shapes like that. Okay, yeah, so that's my basic sketch. So I'm going to go ahead and start doing a background where I want to use my thin gouache and go to my dark blue. It's on the wrong brush. There we go. That's what I wanted. Let me go ahead and just put some background in here. And I think something that would be helpful is if I make the bottom of the piece, I can draw this with my, see what's really cool when you use your select tool, if you just tap, it'll make a perfectly straight line. Like that. And then you can come across like that, boom. And I want to make this just a solid, oh, I need to get rid of this, whoops. Oh, bummer, I gotta start that over. I'm gonna hit add, and then do this one like this, and hit add, and now I have that section cut out. Or maybe I don't. Well, I'll deal with that later. Bummer. Okay, do it the old-fashioned way. Color it in with a brush. Alright, so I'm gonna, this one's gonna be easier because it's all straight lines. That. Come up here. I hit remove. Well, bummer. I'll just do that. Come over here. So now, if I bring this down in opacity, I can go ahead and mark these out. And when you take 3 fingers and swipe them like that, it doesn't erase. So I'm going to just mark these out. Okay, so now I have a base underneath there. And then I think what I'll do is create a layer underneath that and do a similar thing. That goes underneath that layer. I don't have to worry about, I'm going to make this just a little bit different. And I'm going to erase, oops, I'm going to erase that part and go like this. Yeah. Okay. And then, okay, super quick. Just come up here. Go like that. That should, yeah, that'll work. And then here I'm going to go like this. And then just right here, erase this, make that brush a little bigger, erase that, come up here, and this will look better once I change the opacity back. So if I come back up here and pull this opacity up, so now you have a little bit of the dimensionality of that. We'll come back to that. All right. So now I'm going to go ahead and pull this sketch down. And I'm going to make these characters, I'm just going to do them in black with my Crumbrushian brush. These are just going to be silhouettes at first. Let me go ahead and turn this background off so that it's a little easier to see. Oh, see, what I just did was I'm sketching on the sketch layer. So let me create these figures like this. So I'm just trying to be abstract with these figures, just as silhouettes right now. This line come in like this. You know what? I actually think I want to do each of these layers, these characters on a separate layer, so that I can do some effects with them when we're done. Because what I noticed was these figures are going to overlap. Like right there, they're going to overlap. So now I'll make another layer for this square head. I'll probably have to come back in and do some highlighting to get that hand if I want to see it better. And I'll do the shadowy figures in the background in a minute. Okay, so I'm going to turn my background layer back on. Now I want to turn, so I'm going to choose these, I'm going to put them in a group and turn them off for a second. And now I'm going to draw my crucible. Like that. And I think I'll go ahead and just fill that solid. Then I'll do the gold in a different layer. Let me go ahead and just block in the gold for a second. So I'm going to use this. So now I want to imagine that this gold is pouring in. So it's filling up all the way to here, like that. And when you're drawing a line, if you just hold it like that, it'll make it into a straight line, which is really cool. And again, I'm making this up as I go, so we're going to see how this looks. Okay, and then draw this. See, what I'm going for here is that this gold is filling up the mold of peace. It's filling in the way of peace. Okay, so if I did this correctly, I should just be able to drop this in. I didn't. Oh, you know why? It's because this right here, it's not. So now I have a closed shape. Nope, still not working. And I wonder why. So there's somewhere in there is the loop is not closed properly. There we go. Boom. Okay. So what I'm doing right now is just really blocky shapes. Turn that on. And so now I'm going to go ahead and make a layer where I just use my soft airbrush, and I'm going to start with an orange and just talk about a fire. I mean, just this is going to be the refiner's fire. How are we doing out there? Are we still online? Let me just double check that this is working. It's actually working. Streaming. Yeah, we got a few people out there. Excellent. Okay. Yep, got some people online, so can't wait to see what you guys are making. So now I'm going to actually, this layer I'm going to blur. If I choose this adjustments layer and hit Gaussian blur and drag it, I can just blur that. And maybe I make that like an add. I'm going to make a new layer, and I'm going to make some, I think some shapes underneath the add layer. Yeah, there we go. Make some shapes that are hard flame shapes. And then we can blur those too. I think flames are so cool, because have you ever just sat, sometimes I just sit and watch flames, and they just take on so many different shapes. It's so cool. So you can't really be wrong when you're drawing a flame. Of course, there are flames that, jump up. Make this a little bit smaller. I think this central figure probably needs to have his head framed in a flame. So again, I'm going to blur this one just a little bit, like that. Now, what I can do is duplicate this one, make it an add as well, but then make it really blur out, like that, and then bring the opacity down just a little bit. And now we're starting to get some glow, right? And so now we're getting somewhere. This is getting kind of fun. And I can do Gaussian blur. Whoa. Oh. Yeah, I think if I add another layer, maybe do like a yellow, do my brush really big. I can choose, if you go down to the airbrush, the soft brush gets really big. So you can kind of do more of a glow here. Okay. Blur that out a little bit. Just give it a nice glow. Okay. So, apply. Now I also want to mix, remember the metaphors that we're using. I see a vivid cleansing fire and I feel with it a beautiful burn. Oh, thanks Paul. Man, this is awesome. Now I'm gonna play with the water. So I want to come underneath the flames, and I want to go with my soft airbrush and choose a nice blue, and I want to imagine some soapy water also spilling out over. Oh, you know what would be cool is if we had the water kind of filling up the top part of the piece. Like that. Yeah, that's kind of cool. So the piece, the water, and then, yeah, so if I make a layer on top of this, then I can get some more like, let's get some bubbles going. All right, this is soapy water. Sudsy, soapy water. And then probably on top of that, if we do a multiply layer, we can just do a little bit of shading. Behind these bubbles. Like that. Because the fire, of course, is going to be casting shadows along the back side of the bubbles, and the bottom and the back side of the water, like that. Alright, so now we've got this fire and water going, and I think I'm just going to do a couple more things to make this look really interesting. I'm going to do a multiply layer right here and choose the gold, and if I do a clipping mask, then I can just create a little bit of like a shading, a little bit of a bevel, if you will, to kind of build up the gold. Shadow underneath the feet there. I'll do more with that shadow in a minute. And I'm gonna just do like a reflective. And if I do an overlay on top of it with a white, much lighter and go smaller, those reflective surfaces of the metal. Like that. It's kind of cool. Now I'm going to put on top of all of this, I'm going to do a multiply layer for just a dark shadow of this character, something like this. Now we'll go up on top of this group of characters, um, and I'll do an add layer on top of here. And what'll happen is we'll be able to get a little bit of a distinguishing of this hand. So this character is coming out of the flame much further back than that character. And then we'll have one like this. Let's add over top of this character. As they are coming out of the flame as well. And then, yeah. Oh, and then we'll make one on top of this one, which is also add. And then we can get that ghosting image around this character as well. This one we can Gaussian blur a little bit more. This one will Gaussian blur just a little bit more. Same with this one. So we're sitting at 458, and there we go. I think this is what I want to do. I've got 3 characters. I've got the refining fire. I've got the soapy water walking in the way of peace. Yeah, I think we did it. So hey, thanks for joining me. If you're with me still, you're awesome. Thanks for joining me. I will post the final image. This was just really super fun to spend time with you. Just looking at Advent 2, looking at the refiner's fire, the fuller's soap, and being called to walk refined by God's loving, cleansing work in our life to get out all the junk that hurts other people, hurts ourselves, hurts the world, so that we can walk in the way of peace in the world. So I hope that is what God is stirring up in you this Advent season. And thanks for joining me again. If you did create some art, shoot it to me, putting in the, you can message it to me through Facebook Messenger, or you can drop it in the comments, or email it to me at steve@stevethomason.net. And I'd love to see your work. And join me again next Friday for our Advent 3 live stream. And always go to artpastor.com, check out all my resources. I illustrate the Bible. I do a weekly lectionary, emailing if you want to get in on that, download resources for your preaching and teaching of the Bible. But here, my purpose here is to explore spirituality and scripture through visual art and creativity, so that together we can grow deeper in the love of God through Jesus Christ in the power of the Holy Spirit